Hi, I'm here today to tell you how I'm changing lives dramatically in South Africa, and in fact, I'm saving lives in South Africa. I'm doing this through an organization called Bicycles for Humanity. I'll be discussing with you today the creation of Bicycles for Humanity, or BforH as I'll probably refer to, the problems in Africa, how bikes make a difference there, how bikes and jobs are related, bikes and education, bikes and healthcare, and how the interrelationships of these are helping people. Also, how we get bikes from Kitsap County to the orphans in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. Pat Montani is the founder of Bicycles for Humanity, and he went to South Africa. He saw the poverty there. He saw the problems with healthcare, and he decided he wanted to do something to make a difference. He aimed all of his creation of this organization towards education, jobs, and healthcare, with the idea that he can give people the opportunity to help themselves. What we do at Bicycles for Humanity is we collect unwanted bicycles, we put them in shipping containers, we ship them overseas, and then we train people how to run a bicycle business and how to do bicycle repairs. The really cool thing is that the bicycle shipping container becomes the bicycle shop, like shown in the photo here. We all know the problems of Africa. In South Africa, in particular KwaZulu-Natal, the HIV infection rates are kind of almost off the charts. Employment is incredibly large. And with a per capita income of 90 cents per hour, people are having problems. Access to health care and schools is also very difficult. We'll be getting into this stuff a little bit later. There are lots of advantages to bicycles, and as far as helping people over there go, they are mainly related to the load carrying capacity of a bike and the fact that you can travel much, much faster. They can also help stimulate the economy because a new business will be created, and they're very affordable. Now the benefits, of course, are equally grand, and they also have to do with employment opportunities, getting kids to school, and helping people get health care. And this is related to being able to travel much, much faster on a bicycle. A big benefit to women is that they can collect water and firewood much more quickly, be more productive, and then spend the time that they save helping their family in other ways. So, how are bikes used? Well, they certainly provide lots of employment for people. And what we consider junk here can be the equivalent of thousands of dollars in Africa due to the incredibly low wages there. So let's see how people can be helped with bicycles and employment. The load carrying capacity of bikes is very large. Now this fellow here is carrying a huge quantity of foam. While it may be light, it is certainly carrying a very, very large quantity. Or you can carry grass or your favorite pet fish. Now wood is a very important thing to be transporting by bikes. People heat their huts with wood, and they also cook with wood. Can you imagine how long it would take to carry this much wood if you had to walk, say, a half mile or a mile or several miles in order to get it? How many trips would it take you, and how long would that take? You can also use a bike to transport your family. Now, Mr. Banana Man and Mr. Pineapple Man here are probably not going home to feed their family with this. These guys are business people. They probably went, a village away or several villages away with their bikes to buy, say, the bananas from a merchant, and they're taking them back to their village and will be reselling them. This guy's a businessman, and he's making money to help support his family. Now, you can also use it as a taxi cab, or you can be a taxi cab and transport your bike if you want to zip line across a raging river, or a tow truck driver. Pretty amazing photo, huh? Or, on the more practical side, you can pump water to help irrigate your crops, or run a blender to make your morning smoothie, or carry construction materials. How do you like Mr. Brickman there? Charcoal and coal are a very important part of transportation and getting it from one location to another so it can be resold. Or carrying grass from one location to another to help feed the farm animals. Or to get a job, like all these commuters. What all these things have in common is providing people with the opportunity to move from one point to another. It's giving them freedom through the mobility that a bike provides them. Bikes are definitely workhorses. Now, let's take a look at how education can be helped. Now, here's some kids doing chores, and you may say, well, what the heck does that have to do with education? Well, it has a lot to do with education. I was in Africa and I was on a tour with a university professor, and I saw children walking out in the middle of nowhere. I asked him what the kids were doing, and he said they're coming back from school. Many times they have to walk 4 or even 5 miles one way to get to school. Well, can you imagine what the travel time is? I mean, it'd be easily 4 or 5 hours for these kids to commute to and from school every day. A lot of parents won't allow their kids to go to school as a result because they can't get chores done. If they have a bicycle, they can cut that commute time down from, say, 4 or 5 hours down to an hour, come home and still have time to do some chores. And that could easily be enough time for their parents to allow them to go to school. Now, let's take a trip to a school that I went to. Are there any teachers here? Any high school teachers? So, one thing I have a question for you is, does your school district provide you with housing? Think about that for a minute and I'll come back to it. So here's the school I went to. And this is where the classes are actually held, in this building and others similar to it. As you can see, it has air conditioning because the windows are opening, and an alternative method of refuse disposal. Now, there are places where it's very orderly. So, does your district pay for your housing? If you worked in KwaZulu-Natal at this school district, you could have it paid for and provided. Let's see where you'd live. How about this duplex? Would you like to live there where the teachers do? And if you have to get up in the middle of the night, it's only, well, 30 feet or so over to the facilities. So, I mean, what's the problem here, huh? Looks good to me. And what do you think this campus would look like after a heavy rain? Probably a bit muddy, wouldn't it? Inside one of the schoolrooms, you can see the blackboard. Well, it's actually not a blackboard. It's actually an area of the wall that's been painted black. They can't afford blackboards. In fact, the teacher that gave us the tour was telling us how happy they were that they were just able to afford bookcases to put in the book depository, so they didn't have to put the books on the dirt floors. They were hoping to raise $1,200 so they could get a water line up to the school so they didn't have to walk a quarter mile to get water to drink. I'm not talking about plumbing here. That's a pipe dream, and that won't happen for decades, if ever. I'm just talking about a water spigot. So here's the inside of a classroom again. How old do you think those desks are? Maybe 50 years? And then the pile of rubbish in the back. The light in these buildings, well, it doesn't amount to much. It amounts to the sunlight that comes in through the windows. There's 2 or 3 6-foot long fluorescent lights in each of the room, hardly adequate to provide decent lighting. Now you may ask, how on earth can anybody learn in this type of environment? Well, actually, they can learn very well. This was the #1 school in the district and the #8 school in the entire province. Okay, are you getting a sense of what people have to live like and the conditions under which they live and how a bicycle can maybe help them tremendously? These are the type of facilities that you get when the per capita income is 90 cents per hour. Let's look at the healthcare system now. These are ambulances. Bicycle ambulances are very, very common in Africa, and these are actually very, very nice ones. Some are just basically a hammock on the back of a trailer, but these are nice. These are good ones. If you can get to a healthcare facility, a clinic, you'll probably be taken care of. This young woman obviously has a problem with her baby, and perhaps it's an inoculation. You can get good care once you get to a clinic. And this is a typical clinic that's out in the more remote areas of Africa. And they even have places for you to stay. If you need to stay overnight, if you have a fairly severe injury or are real sick, you can stay there. And this is what those facilities would look like. Things aren't good, are they? This is what you get again when the average income is 90 cents per hour. You get pretty lousy facilities, but at least they're facilities, and at least you can get there pretty easily if you have a bike. So, how do I get bikes? Well, here's the path that the bikes take. A bike is donated, it's transported to my house, then it's taken to the warehouse in Seattle. The containers are packed, it's shipped to Durban, South Africa, and then it goes to its final destination. We're going to take a look at each one of these in detail now. This is the first bike, and it was given to me by some friends. It's very, very small in stature, but it certainly represented a huge, huge development because it kicked off my volunteer work with Bicycles for Humanity. I get bikes from lots of different areas, some friends like this. Sometimes I come home and I just find bikes in my front yard, and I don't know where they came from, but I really like that because it shows the word's getting out about what I'm doing. And I also get them from the Bainbridge, Bremerton, and Poulsbo Police Department. But by far the most common way I get bikes are through donation centers, drop-off locations I've established throughout Kitsap and the Olympic Peninsula. I've established a dozen drop-off locations, and if you scan through these, you can see that the vast majority of them are at bicycle shops. Some exceptions are in Bremerton at Vertical World, and in Kingston at the Chamber, and at North Kitsap Metal Recycling. So you can take your bikes to any of these locations, and they will gladly accept them. Now I'll take any bike in any condition as long as the frame is in good condition. I don't care about the rest of the components. However, I won't take wooden bikes like this chap from Rwanda has. I'd love to have one, so if you happen to have an authentic wooden bike from Africa, won't you give me a call and we can talk about some sort of arrangement. So once the bikes are at a drop-off location, I go to pick them up. And just to be clear, this is not my pickup. However, the other shot there is of my front yard. Well, what do? Well, the idea is to make the bikes as compact as possible so you can pack as many bikes as possible into the shipping containers. So when they get to my house, I remove the pedals and zip tie them to the frame. I put the seat down as low as it can go, and then I turn the handlebars 90 degrees. That makes the bike pretty compact. I then put them in my garage. This is an 8x12 space in my garage, and I can get about 100 bikes in there, although in that photo there's only 85. Then Aramark comes along and picks the bikes up and takes them back to the warehouse. And you might say, Aramark, aren't they a hotel service provider? Well, yes, they are. The reason I'm involved with them is because Frank Finneran, who is the leader of Bicycles for Humanity in Seattle, is deeply connected with the hotel industry. All the drop-off locations in Seattle are at hotels. When Aramark comes along to drop off laundry or pick up uniforms, if there's a bike at the hotel, they simply put it in the back of the van and then take it down to the warehouse. Here you can see several hundred bikes at the warehouse. Volunteers preparing the bikes in the same way I do, although they take it one additional step. They take off the front wheel. A number is put on the wheel and also the frame, so the two can be matched up a little bit later. But by taking the wheel off, you're saving about 1 foot on every bike. So again, it makes it more compact, and you can get more bikes into the container. Here's a container, and if you look off to the left there, you can see a pile of wheels. And again, those have a number on them so they can be matched up with the bikes. When you get to the top, there's always space up at the top of the container where it's too small to fit a bike, but there's plenty of room for wheels. So we find all kinds of nooks and crannies, and that's where we put the wheels. And if you look closely, you can also see lots of tires that were donated, and we just kind of jam those in where we find room also. We're just about completed here with the container. You can see all kinds of boxes in there. Those are both tools and spare parts that we have purchased, and they're new, and those will help set up the new business. Almost complete now, just 2 or 3 more bikes left to get in this container. Then the bikes get shipped to Durban. Durban's a very modern city. It has brand new high-rises and also very old buildings like the City Hall and Museum, and a streetscape that is very, very pedestrian-friendly. Durban's got an incredible pulse in the city, and it was a delightful city, at least in this part. You can also take a concert in at a park. But as far as BforH is concerned, what Durban is really all about is shipping. Here you can see some outlines of boats out on the Indian Ocean going to and from Durban at sunrise. And the port, with 3.5 million people in the city, it's got an extremely large port. And this is where the bike will go. The bikes are then picked up. A semi takes them to their final location, and the container is dropped off. A really happy time, though, is when that container is opened up. And the smiles open up then, too. Then it's training time. The new business owners have to be trained in bicycle mechanics so they can repair bikes. And a Rotary volunteer will be giving the training. Here's a happy mechanic. And more happy mechanics. They're now employed because of a bicycle. The bicycle container becomes a bike shop. Here you can see a hole has been cut in the side of the container to act as an entry door. The bikes neatly placed inside. These will be going out for sale. And another area for spare parts. So a new business venture has been created, and if you look at the back on the pegboard, those are all the tools that we sent to South Africa. A complete set of tools so they can do any work that's required on the bicycles. Now, half the bikes that we send there are given to orphans and care workers. The rest are sold to maintain the business. It's a happy time on distribution day. I mean, look at the smiles on these orphans' faces. All the dignitaries come out. It's a big, big day. They shake the hands of all the people receiving the bikes. And it's a party atmosphere, especially for the healthcare workers. They're going to be saving lives and giving really good care to the people that need it. Naduma was where we first sent bikes. And this is a collage of photographs that were taken from that big event. So far, Seattle has shipped 3 containers. We're getting 530 bikes on the containers now. The first one we only got 450. With more efficiencies in packing, we were able to get another 80 bikes on. And 15 large boxes of tools and spare parts. Our next container will be going out in the spring. We work very closely with South African people, namely the Rotary, who's been invaluable, a Catholic church, and the Peace Foundation. The local Rotaries have been very, very valuable. They've set up the relationships with our South African partners, and that has proved to be invaluable. The very first container that went over there, people from Seattle had to actually go over and try to figure out the import laws and hire trucking companies and set up the training by themselves. But thanks to the Seattle and Redmond Rotaries, that's all being taken care of now, and they coordinated all that. Obviously a far, far smoother way of doing things. Now, they also provide member donations, and they sponsor bike drives, and they provide volunteers to help pack the containers. And they've even written us a few checks. Now, it does cost a fair amount of money to get a container over there. It runs $18,000 to $20,000. And all but about $5,000 of that is for getting the container over there. And the $5,000 is for training and bicycle parts and tools. Now, everybody always wants to know how much money BforH is spending on salaries. And it is indeed an important part of the process. I looked into this, and all 22 chapters of BforH, if you take all their administrative salaries, since the inception of BforH, which was 6 years ago, the total amount spent is not one penny. We're a 100% volunteer organization. Now let's tie everything together. This is a trailer from a documentary that's a half-hour long, and you can see it online, called Where on Earth is My Bike? What we'll be talking about in here is, well, you'll be hearing people discuss how bikes are like a car to them, how it can help them collect firewood and water, or learn new job skills, or how it increases the time available to do other chores and care for their families. One young man was living on the streets and was part of a gang until his bicycle came along. And the last man in here, well, you'll find out about how he feels about being the only one in the area to have a bike.
I feel good because this, if I'm having a bike, I'm just like someone who's having a car.
When we received the bike, it was a celebration because since we received that first bike, it was really enjoyable because all our stress that time and all our problem, it was covered by those bikes.
I feel like I've got more experience. Now I'm a doctor of bicycle. You see, every day you are learning something new.
Today with my bicycle, I collect my firewood and I can go to make my fire for the whole week. And I think that bicycle is a very important thing because without a bicycle you cannot have these kinds of food.
In our country, Namibia, in my case, our school, most of the kids are walking long distance to come to school. At least if you can assist them and give them bicycles, it will help them to come on school and get education on time.
There is a change in my life. Before I was living in the streets and practiced the gang life, and then I came to live here, and it's really a real change because it changed my life a lot.
It's really make a big change because now I can empower other women to do the same as I did.
I'm only one here who have a bicycle, only me. Then I feel like a chief.
Well, I need help. The best thing you can do is network. Tell all your friends about this great organization and even email all your friends. That would be great. I could also use some temporary storage locations, particularly down in the south end here. It doesn't take much room to store bikes. Even a small space in your garage or underneath your eave. If you have like a, say, even a 3 by 6 foot space, I can get probably 8 bikes in that small of an area. Another good thing that I could use help with would be to transport bikes from the drop-off locations to a temporary storage. And if you so desire, organize a bike drive. I can help you with all of this. Feel free to contact me. The cards that you've received with the short story on the back will have all this information on it. Call me anytime and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Pat Montani provided an organization for people to donate what they don't want to someone who will treasure it. We all can be a difference in other people's lives, and it's so simple. You can go out to your garage, take that dusty, dirty bike you haven't used in years, make a donation, and even get paid to do it through a tax deduction, and change a person's life forever. Thanks a lot, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions now.